Thank you guys for listening to episode 7 of Remake Rewind, the podcast where we decide if a remade movie or reboot should have happened, if it added value to, just the movie verse. This week we're going to be talking about The Thing and The Thing from Another World. With me, as always, is Dustin. How are you doing, Dustin?
Hey, I'm doing well, thank you.
I'd like everyone to welcome back Xavier. Xavier, you've been gone for a few weeks, but we're glad you're back. How you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty well. Had a good, relaxing couple of weeks, and I'm ready to get back into it.
Excellent.
Nice.
So I think this is a perfect movie to bring Xavier back in. God, these are two drastically different movies based off the same source material.
So different.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
So The Thing, 1982 John Carpenter classic. This movie was not received very well in the 80s, but kind of had a resurgence in the 90s, is now considered one of the best horror films of all time. And the 1951 Radio Pictures movie, same company that made King Kong.
RKO, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
RKO.
God, don't have a lot to say about it to prop it up. But
It had a really cool title sequence.
It did.
Which they
It did.
used again in 1982. That was probably the best thing about the movie.
Yep, there's not a lot to say about good things to say about that movie. So I think we should just dive into it. Let's what are we going to be talking about? Whatever our criteria are going to be this week, guys.
Well,
I think the creature, right?
Oh, definitely.
We
Yeah.
got space aliens.
I
happening.
think...
So creature design and its powers, I guess.
Yeah, certainly. And I think
Sure,
also just like the application of special effects in the movie. I think something else that would be great to talk about is the overall tone of what we're actually watching. Because
two very
different
different
oh,
movies.
yeah. I mean, the original one is like a classic 50s schlock monster movie, and
Sci-fi horror
yeah,
movie.
it's just a crappy old sci-fi horror movie, and then the 82 one is so vastly different.
Oh my God!
and
just the
so much better.
general kind of feelings towards the 1951 Thing from Another Planet. What do you guys are just your base level gut instinct on this movie?
Well, just to get this out of the way, it's The Thing from Another World, okay?
Did I say planet?
You said
Oh, fuck,
planet.
I'm an idiot.
You son of a bitch.
Fuck.
You're so dumb.
But,
You're unqualified.
I mean, let's just look at the poster for the original versus the poster for the 1982 version.
Yeah.
Like, the original has people making expressions like they're kind of constipated, and it has this tagline that says, "It creeps, it crawls, it strikes without warning."
It doesn't do any of those
And
things.
it doesn't do any of those things. it does not creep. It does not once crawl, except
didn't
when it
see
is
it crawl
being.
at all.
Well, I mean, it gets down on its knees when it's being electrocuted.
Does it even lurk? I didn't even think.
No,
I
it
didn't
doesn't
even
lurk.
think I
It
saw
doesn't
lurk.
No,
It doesn't come out of nowhere either. It's always punching
It
through
comes
walls
out
and
of
doors.
somewhere.
Yeah,
Every
exactly.
goddamn time.
It doesn't strike without warning once in the goddamn movie.
No, there might as well be a siren that goes off every time.
Yeah,
it shows up.
exactly.
It strikes with very much warning.
So yeah, not very good and definitely not a very accurate tagline.
God, no.
Basic plot of this movie: a bunch of guys
Well,
are
actually,
told
though, the other thing we have to touch on, though, I mean, these two movies take place on two different poles.
they do.
This is true.
So
So
they're both
they're going to be
based-
two opposite movies. One's going to be very good, and one's going to be very shit.
One's going to
You
be
might say
very
they're
not good.
polar opposites.
I
They are.
hate you
that's
so
what I'm
much.
saying.
I hate you so much right now.
I love you.
You are a terrible
too,
human
Dustin.
being.
So these are both based off the novella "Who Goes There," which I actually read. So I will kind of touch on some of the stuff
Which
as we
I
go
actually
through.
read the Wikipedia entry about.
I read
Good.
that you said it was based on a novella.
I
Full
also
stop.
read in a text message that you read it.
Good. So we all know that I read the novella that this is based on. Good. So basically, in a nutshell, some pilot and some of his crew are called to go to the North Pole, which, as far as I know, I didn't know there was actually a research center out on the North Pole. I could be wrong. But they go up to the North Pole to investigate a magnetic disturbance, and they find a flying saucer. They find an alien. They bring said alien back, and alien goes and rampages. There's a crazy scientist who wants to keep it alive, and everyone fights it. But that's the plot in a nutshell. So I think we should just dive into the criteria.
All right.
What do you guys want to handle first?
We'll talk about the creature.
Yeah.
Like, I felt like in this movie, the creature is just a large man.
It's just a large man with some gloves and
he's
like a
just
skull cap.
He's just a big dude.
Yeah. He's just like a big guy that has big hands. They keep talking about his hands. Like, did you see his hands?
Okay, so
no, I don't know.
He's basically Frankenstein, but for copyright reasons, they couldn't call him Frankenstein.
Yeah. But so
And
one
I know
thing...
that Frankenstein is not the monster; it's the scientist.
yeah,
but in the movie,
I was
Frankenstein's the
gonna correct
monster.
you.
So there
You
is
assholes on Twitter and stuff.
There is one thing I will say about the way that they did the introduction, or what little introduction there was for the thing in the original, and that's that the point where it actually comes out of the ice, despite it being really fucking dumb. It's, for those who haven't seen it, it's in a giant block of ice, and some moron puts an electric blanket on it, melting the ice. So, disregarding how absolutely fucking shit-tacular that is, the way that they introduce the monster is by having it be this creeping shadow that's behind a guy, and you never actually see the monster, which I think is actually a pretty good introduction for it. You see the guy reacting to it, you see he's in this creepy environment, and you see that, when he comes back, when everybody comes back, the thing is just gone.
Well, I would say that having seen the monster later in the film, that you should never see the monster in this film because it's boring and stupid to look at.
Well, there is that.
But I will kind of agree with you that up until like the monster arrives, like I was kind of on board when they're
Me
like,
too.
oh, we got all the scientists at the North Pole, we got the news guy, what the hell's going on? The news guy is able to kind of like convince like the military that he should go along too. So like, yeah, get on a ski plane, and like there's all that, and the music's cool. And the other thing I guess I'll say like about this movie is for an old movie, the people talk really fast.
They do.
Like, the dialogue comes really quick. And at one point, like somebody says like, hello, doctor, and then acknowledges a professor. So he's like, hello, doctor, professor. And I couldn't help but thinking, yes, I'm Dr. Professor. Like it runs so quickly that it's hard to tell who's talking to who and what they're talking about.
That was actually something I noticed as well. There were several scenes during this movie where you can actually tell that they only had enough film for like one or two takes.
Like one take.
Yeah, like they must be like, all right, guys, fucking get it.
Yeah, so everybody's just like, we're going to do it. And it almost seemed like a lot of it was improvised or something, but it had like kind of this interesting snappy quality to it that I kind of appreciated.
Based off the science that they threw out, I would definitely say this is improvised. I agree that having him not be shown right away was a great tool, and that's something that I know Alfred Hitchcock was the master at, and this is an Alfred Hitchcock movie, but he kind of made this what people did. It wasn't necessarily what you see, it's what you don't see that makes the movie scary.
Yeah, absolutely.
And this movie was definitely scarier until you saw the creature.
I think the creature, and then it was really like until you saw like all the little plants that the dude was making. It's like, really? You're just fucking growing little plants? Like,
This
what the
creature
hell am I watching?
is a plant creature. So what bothered me about this movie is they have this big argument when they bring him, where one group of people are like, oh, we should definitely thaw him out and we should do an autopsy and figure everything out that we can. And,
well,
this is a
Dr.
huge science thing.
Carrington, like the main science guy, throughout the movie, for no apparent reason, is convinced that this being has like infinite knowledge that he can teach
and
us.
There's nothing...
Like he's so much better than us.
And
but
he's
really
not
it's just a
he's not a very good
killing
scientist.
Machine plant. Like, he's
like,
a terrible scientist.
Where did he get this info? So just to give you some of my
Where did he
credentials,
go to school?
I have 2 degrees, one in human development and one associate's degree in physical science.
So you've never been paid for science.
I have never been paid for science, so I cannot claim to be a professional scientist, but
However,
I will claim to be
From knowing you, I know that you have practiced science at an amateur level many times.
Many times. I have done
many times.
Numerous dissections. I've worked on a cadaver.
You've had several hypotheses.
I've had many hypotheses, which I have tested and verified.
I will say that you are more of a scientist than the crappy Dr. Carrington.
Thank you. So, in my expert analysis of the science, the big problem I had with it is, like you said, he was talking about how intelligent this creature is, and there's no basis for that. And then at one point, he also says that this creature does not have emotion and does not need to reproduce and has no sexual desire. This was before doing any kind of dissection. This is before doing anything. This is before observing the creature. How can you come up with these hypotheses based off nothing?
I think he's basing it just off of the fact that like it flew in a spaceship to here, to Earth, and crashed. Like there's no evidence to support any of his theories.
Well, he
right?
also
Like,
says at one
you
point,
have no idea what this alien creature is capable of, where it's from, what it even fucking looks like before he.
so they
starts
say
spouting off.
he says probably can't die. It has no arteries. It's superior because it evolved without emotional or sexual desire. So once again, on what basis? But then later on, they mention that he's a Nobel Prize winning scientist, and then he talks about how it must need blood, and that part ends up being right because he does drain the blood of a couple dogs and people.
The only redeeming thing about it is throughout the movie, all of the other characters definitely grow to hate him as much as
they do.
You do while you're watching it.
And
I think in my notes here I don't remember who exactly, but I have Dr. Carrington is now responsible for the deaths of 2 people.
He is. Well, the other thing that's crazy
He's making more of them in his lab.
There is a character who I think is a physicist in the movie. I don't remember exactly.
Yeah, there's like
what he
one
said he was.
scientist with like a level head who's like, "You're fucking insane, dude."
Well, he goes, we don't know anything about this creature, and he talks about, one, it could have some space bacteria that could kill us all, and then some soldier guy goes, yeah, but the cold could have killed that, and he goes, okay, even if the cold killed the bacteria, this creature's from another planet. You have no idea what its body is going to do when it reacts with our atmosphere. Like, as soon as we unthaw it, it could just melt. We don't know what's going on. We just need to study it. And then the main character is just like, he decides, you know what, fuck you guys, I'm going to make the decision. He breaks the windows to keep it cold in that room, and then that guy throws the electric blanket on it. But what I think is really funny is the first time he sees it, the people see this creature, it's understandable that this creature is killing them, because as soon as the guy sees it, he just starts shooting at him.
I mean, which is probably the right thing to do.
Well, probably,
I don't know.
But they don't know anything. Like, it could have been a peace-loving creature, but was attacked by the
Did
first
you see its
sentient,
hands?
Yeah, to be fair, if you saw that guy coming at you and you were at the North fucking Pole and suddenly you turned around and there's just guy with fucking oatmeal on his face and big rubber gloves on, you'd probably start shooting too.
Probably.
Fuck that guy. The way they got him out of the fucking ice was, or they were talking about getting him out with bombs. Which I don't know. I am no scientist. I mean, I do dabble in theoretical biology from time to time, but I am no scientist. And I don't know that the proper procedure is to remove a body from a block of ice is with bombs.
No, definitely
Maybe it is.
not.
Clearly, the proper procedure for removing a body from a block of ice is to just throw an electric blanket on it. I mean,
True,
they proved
as
this.
this movie has illustrated. And the way to
It works.
remove a spaceship is with bombs.
Well, yes.
Unless it's made of magnesium and then it explodes. A historic find in moments.
Oh my god. Well, I also like when they do that, when they find the spaceship and they're like, what kind of metal is that? And the guy's like, I don't know, let me get my tools. And he just like goes to it with like a chisel and a hammer. He's like, this is unlike any metal I've ever seen. It's got to be a new element. And it's like,
They're like
why?
hella
Because
shitty to that guy too. Like some guy's just barking. They're like, Barnes, bring some tools.
Yeah,
It's
it's like, why
fucking
would
Barnes.
just-
God, why do you talk to me like that? You get
Why-
the tools.
why would hitting it with a chisel automatically mean it's a new element? Like,
Oh yeah. Well, the
it
sound
doesn't make it.
that it makes when you hit it.
Yeah, instead of going clang, it goes bong.
Yeah, and
So-
then the guys are like, we finally got one. We found a flying saucer. It's like, have you even been looking on purpose?
And then later on, they do like read a memo from the military saying that flying saucers aren't real, and they're all just like ripping on it. But
Yeah,
the thing
don't
is,
they get a
getting-
memo at one point saying like, don't blow it up? Like, oh, too late. We already blew it up.
But getting back to the creature really quick, like he just is just lumbering around, destroying things, and he's trying, I guess because he's a plant, he's trying to get blood to grow.
Yeah,
new
I mean, all plants
seedlings.
want blood to grow.
Well, yeah, the only thing holding them back is their
You're the
roots.
biologist, right? Plants want blood to grow.
I
That
mean,
sounds
there
like
is
all
water
plants
in
work.
blood.
Yeah.
Do you know what else
there's
has
blood in
water?
blood. Carnivorous plants.
Do you guys?
Ice?
has water.
Yeah, ice. There's a lot of water in ice, you guys.
Sometimes.
You know what's weird is so they have a greenhouse in the North Pole, right? And they keep thinking, oh, the creature's going to come back. The creature's going to come back. And it does. We never see the creature go back to the greenhouse, but there are people who wait for it, and he kills 2 of them off screen and like hangs them up and like slits their throat,
Yeah.
which is really weird.
Gotta get that blood.
And then let's talk about the vulnerabilities really quick. So they rip this thing's arm off at some point, and it grows the arm back. So, it is strong. Like the scientist, was kind
regenerative.
of right that it, it has some powers that we don't have. It seems to be, even though it's a plant, invulnerable to fire.
Yeah, kind of.
They dump kerosene on it. They throw like Molotovs at it, and it burns, and then just like runs out into the snow and falls into the snow and gets attacked by dogs.
Yeah, made short work of those dogs.
It did, and then it's ultimately vulnerable to electricity. So that's how they end up killing it, is they make like an electric fence that it runs into, and it just burns into ash, and then they end up destroying everything. They destroy all the plants. They destroy its like severed arm that they still have.
All the plants that fucking Dr. Carrington was cultivating.
You know what I like? I wish he died instead of surviving, because like he gets a little bit of a comeuppance
should have beaten him to death.
where he shuts off the electricity and basically threatens all their lives by not having that trap going, and he goes up and tries to talk to it, and it just fucking shows him the back of its hand and just backhands him, and he goes
gets
flying.
Bitch slapped pretty hard.
I don't have much more to say about the alien. It's pretty dumb.
Alien's dumb.
We've kind of talked about the people too. Just their reaction is they're very accepting of it, except for the people who like are supposed to guard it. They're like, I don't want to guard this thing. You know, it's creepy.
I want to shoot it.
But once it breaks loose, like they're pretty calm throughout the whole movie. Like they're all just like, yep, there's an alien loose. We should probably try to kill it. We don't know where it's going to be. And they come up with pretty good plans, like kerosene and stuff like that. It was a pretty good first plan.
Yeah, I think there was a moment too when they're like going to like take it to the alien, and they walk up to that guy wearing the flannel shirt, and that guy's like, "Hey, what's up? Looks like a lynching party." I kind of got the feeling that dude had been to his share of lynching parties, just from looking at it.
Welcome to 1951.
Yeah, it's like, whoa, dude.
But other than that, like they had plans. They worked as a team. And they ultimately got this thing destroyed. They engineered electricity traps, and they killed it.
Yeah,
like, they came out on top, and only 2 people and a couple of dogs died. Like they did pretty good.
They fared all right. Yeah, you know.
But yeah, there's not much.
It was still pretty fucking dumb. Like,
at the end, you got the reporter guy. What was weird is that reporter guy was with him the whole time, and he doesn't pass out when he sees the ship. He doesn't do anything crazy. He's there when like the creature dies. He's there when the creature attacks a bunch of people.
Yeah, he sees the dog. Up. He wants to be part of the attack. Like,
but then he faints after the creature's dead.
He's a wimp, dude, and he's been annoying the whole movie. Also, like he's supposed to be like the nerd guy. I'm not saying that redeems
you know what I thought was really funny?
In any way. He's terrible. They're all terrible.
In this movie, it's 1951, so they can't really swear. So instead of saying like "holy shit," they say "holy cats" like the entire movie. Like every time
I like that kind of shit. That's like the best part of the movie.
Oh man, you know what? The other thing that was weird about this movie, they keep using like a Geiger counter, and this like creature is radioactive.
Yeah.
And then they go, this young guy is like, oh, I'm gonna use the Geiger counter to find the creature, and then so he like goes to this room like, you're an idiot. That room has uranium in it. It's like, why do they just have like uranium?
Towards the beeps on a Geiger counter? I would say that maybe, and this might be a stretch, that Geiger counter like element is kind of like the motion tracker in Aliens.
It could be,
like it might have kind of paved that foundation. However, you should not go towards the stronger radiation ever, right? Like I think even in 1951 they would have known, oh shit, it's more radioactive here, we should leave because that makes us die.
Just basically to go back to the people really quick, I just have a few notes with the one, like, why are they going towards Geiger counting thing, and the scientists when they're at the crash site after they blow it up, they're like, check the Geiger counter again, and it's like, it's a little fainter, and he goes, it's just residual now, we're safe. And it's like, so you weren't safe initially?
Oh,
like,
no,
they were going directly towards radiation. Like, they all have cancer now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they're
all dead now.
Yeah,
this is 1951.
They basically just exploded a bunch of radioactive material into the air around them. So,
yeah.
they're going to be peachy keen later on.
Oh, shit. Fuck. These goddamn idiots.
But I like throughout the movie, like, the scientists keep saying, like, this is an intelligent creature. He says we owe it to society to die before harming this creature that can bring wisdom.
No, we fucking don't.
He thinks they should die before killing this creature, which he doesn't know whether or not it's smart.
I mean, I'm glad that all of the other characters are like, no, we shouldn't die because you're stupid and we're in danger. Like, no one else gloms onto this theory. I guess I would say that's one of the big contrasts between the people's reaction in both of these movies. Like, at least, like, in this one, there's a character that's devoted to understanding this character. And I would say the 82 one is much more about, like, how do we survive and how do we prevent this from reaching like society? You know? So like in the and I think ultimately that is what makes the 82 one better, is because the 82 one is kind of like a survival horror movie.
It is. So I don't have much more to say about this movie. Do you guys have anything else you want to say before we move on to the 1982 version?
Well, if our criteria for judging movies is whether they added value or not, I would say that the only value that this added is that it made way for a remake.
You know, the other thing I would say too is when I was watching the 82 one and they're viewing the footage that they found from the Norwegians, or as McCready calls the Swedes, is that when they find the saucer, is that footage from this movie? Like, is
I don't think
borrowed?
so.
No.
It definitely
I
isn't,
noticed
because
I don't think it is.
Maybe I'm wrong.
well, no, they don't, because the timelines don't match. Because
it's shot
in this
real
one,
similar.
in this one, they
No. I'm not saying they're like the movies are I'm not saying they relate to one another. I'm saying, is it just borrowed? Is it an homage?
Oh, did they
is my
use
question.
footage from this one? Oh,
I think it's homage instead of being like direct footage
Lifted.
from the movie. Because the scene where there are the guys who are like standing almost
Yeah,
arm
they're
to
all
arm.
spread out
Yeah.
like equidistant.
The shot didn't quite match. I think they probably just reshot a similar scene.
All right. Well,
Got it.
there's hoping
Yeah.
all right. So let's.
for something redeeming about this movie.
If you guys don't have anything, I'll just kind of touch upon it with the book real quick, or the novella. The 1982 one is much, much closer to the novella. The novella was written in 1938, but there's certain things that this one did right, or actually more accurate than the 1982 one. Like in the novella, the only thing that can actually harm the creature, it's not a plant-based creature. It is a shape-shifting creature in the novella, but it is electricity. So that was something that this did better. The argument about like the merits of dissecting it and keeping it alive is actually lifted almost verbatim from the novella. But other than that, like that's it. Just that one scene, and then the how they kill the monster with electricity. But that's about it. The timelines don't match. So in this one, they actually know that the spaceship crashed recently. Like they saw like points of, like they have photos of it in the sky. In the novella, it's been there for like 20 million years or something like that.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, that's the same
that could
thing.
also have been the case in the 82 one, because
It is. They mentioned that
title sequence, and you see the saucer. Like the very beginning is the flying saucer crash.
Yeah. Well, they mention it in the new movie in the 1982, like based off the ice samples, that it's.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah.
I think they said it two different. I think they at one point said like 20,000 years old, and another time they said like 2 million years old. But it's definitely been there for a very long time. Like they just happened to find it, and they did the same thing. Like they in the 1982 one, they do mention that they used thermite as well to get to melt the ice. That the ice melt. So I guess that part was accurate from the original. And the same thing, like it reacted with magnesium and stuff. So there are a few things that they are similar in, but that's about it.
Yeah, I mean, overall, I did not really enjoy this movie, and if I were to pin it down to one thing, it's the lack of Kurt Russell.
But now we're going to talk about the 1982 body horror classic, The Thing by John Carpenter.
Fucking finally.
Nutshell version of this movie. Helicopter is being flown by like a Norwegian pilot with a Norwegian guy with like a sniper rifle, and he's shooting at a dog. He ends up like landing the plane, throws a grenade to try to kill the dog, blows up the helicopter. He misses like 10 shots, blows up his own helicopter, and then when the dog goes up to
doesn't he kill his other pilot? Like he kills
his
buddy
pilot
in the chopper, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so then the Americans kill him because he's throwing grenades and shooting at. He shoots
one
of the
them
Americans
in like the leg. So they go to the Norwegian camp, which McCready, played by the one, the only, Kurt Russell.
They got to go see what those crazy Swedes are up to.
Swedes, yep. So like 3 or 4 times in this movie, Kurt Russell's character McCready calls the Norwegian Swedes.
Oh yeah, well they ask him like, we got to go check out the Norwegian camp. He's like, you really want to save those crazy Swedes, huh? And then like when they get there, he's like, then they correct him like, hey Mac, they're Norwegian. And then they get there, he's like, anybody there? Hey Sweden. And they're like, Mac, they're Norwegian. Like he just doesn't give a damn. Cool long hair, cool shades, and a fucking Yosemite Sam hat, or an Arctic sombrero. I don't know what that hat's called, but it is amazing.
Yeah, he has those really cool goggles. It's like welder's goggles.
He looks awesome in this movie, dude.
Yeah, he is the most badass guy in weird clothing you'll ever see.
I definitely think he's the most badass guy in 1982 on the planet.
Oh, well, I mean, he's Kurt Russell, so it automatically makes him the badass guy on the planet at basically any time. So, you know.
They go to the Norwegian camp. They find that it's like burned to fuck. Like there's a bunch of like weird dead bodies.
Those crazy Swedes really fucked
and they're
that
like,
place up.
are those people? And then like it has like two heads and like weird long fingers.
They're all like morphing into each other and stuff, and it's all gnarly.
So they decide to take this thing, whatever it is, back with them. I don't know how they did it, but they brought it back.
Well, they like wrapped it in a tarp or something.
So they bring it back, and everyone's like, "What the fuck is that thing?" And they have like that same argument, like, are we going to dissect it? What is it?
You know, another thing too that both of these movies have in common is there's like zero quarantine procedure for any of this weird shit. Like they just bring it in and like put it on the fucking dinner table, dude. Like they don't give a damn.
First movie, the 1951, there is that one character who's like, we don't know anything about it. There could be bacteria. It could rot. Like, let's just leave it. In this one, they're just like, oh, yeah, we're going to, dissect it and see what's going on.
That guy's the only guy in both of these movies concerned about, like, space aid.
Yeah.
and he's the only one that cares about space microbes. It's stupid.
I think my favorite part having to do with that is when the guy is literally reaching into this thing's, cut open viscera shit. Yeah, pulling out organs and stuff, and he's got these rubber gloves on his hands, but then he's just going in elbow deep.
Oh
and
and it was real gooey.
It was real gooey.
You mentioned that the cells are still alive while they're doing the dissect. Like part of it's still alive.
Well, in this one too, they really
came
go on to like all of the cells are alive.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a different thing about the things in this movie. Which, when we talk about the creature, I guess we can get into that a little more.
But basically,
right? But like,
go ahead, Xavier.
Yeah, he's just like fucking fisting this thing elbow deep with these little gloves on his hands. I mean, why is he even wearing gloves?
Oh, there's no point.
There's literally no point.
He doesn't want to get it under his fingernails. That's hard to clean.
I guess he just like didn't want to fuck up his manicure or something. Regardless.
So eventually, all hell breaks loose. The dog starts infecting like the other dogs and transforms into a big monster. And then now they like.
Well, it fucks up those other dogs. Like at one point, one of the dogs is like chewing through a metal fence trying to get away, and then like the one dog erupts and turns all inside out or whatever. And like I don't really know how in this movie you get infected by a thing, but it seems like there's a lot of ways. One of which includes getting sprayed by goo because one of those poor dogs gets just gooed.
It's very
real bad. Is it the goo? Is it like those whippy tendrils?
They keep
I don't know
vague
what
on
does
purpose. Like they never really tell you exactly what needs to happen. In the
just being anywhere near it.
I do recall in one scene, somebody mentioned that this thing can infect us with the tiniest particle, so we should all fix our own food and only eat candy.
They say that, but
we should only eat out of cans.
There's no real basis for that. But for him to say that, like once again, they don't really know.
Well, dude might already be a thing, just saying shit, trying to be less like suspected.
Yeah. So basically, in a nutshell, the alien. They now know that there's like this alien monster creature thing. They go into like survival mode, and they get all paranoid, and they end up fighting the creature. And at the end of the movie, there's two people left, and it's left with this ambiguous ending as to whether or not these two people are human, if one of them's an alien. It's a pretty.
If both of them are, you have no idea.
You don't really know, but realistically, you don't even know if Kurt Russell is an alien or not.
Yeah, that was something that I really appreciated about this. But it was kind of a big staple of like those 80s horror movies where you don't actually know what is causing this stuff to happen. Like in Hellraiser, there's the puzzle box and stuff, but they never explain until later shitty movies where the Cenobites come from or what what exactly they are, what their history is or anything like that. And I think that actually lends a lot to the overall creep factor because you don't know what's happening.
There is a point where they hear like a crash and then like they run outside and there is a human. He looks like a human from behind, but then as they like circle him, he has like this super long claw, and they realize like he's halfway through transforming and assimilating. this person. So what's interesting
Yeah.
about this, and they mention it, and this is like a huge factor in the novella, is that it starts off in the novella. It starts off as like this 4-foot tall, weird looking alien thing, and then it goes after a dog, but the dog weighs less than the creature did, so it has extra mass. So it just keeps absorbing the mass and can get bigger and bigger and bigger. In this, it's like the same thing, that it not only imitates them, but also assimilates like their organic matter into the creature itself.
Yeah, and I think what I like about this movie is these characters aren't really wasting a lot of time trying to understand like the physiology of this creature so much as who is one of them and how do we kill them.
And all that different stuff, and they come up with various tests to figure it out. And
I mean, the blood one works.
Yeah,
that's a great scene
Yeah,
too,
it's a
when they're
great
tied to
scene.
the couch and McCready's testing the blood, and like, dude, I don't know, man. Like, that's horrifying when those two dudes are tied to the couch and the one guy starts changing. It's like, dude,
Oh,
you're
God, yeah.
strapped to a couch with a fucking monster.
so I liked that. Like, there's certain points where you knew, hey, one of these two people have to be one, and one, who else isn't one. And this whole thing takes place over a matter of hours, like 12 hours.
Well,
something
yeah,
like that.
and I think the other big differentiating factor between these two movies is that this thing wants to not reveal itself.
Yeah.
It wants to hide and manipulate, and
It'll fight if it has to,
it
but it
seems
wants
a lot
to.
smarter.
Yeah.
And so that's a lot more interesting in terms of a movie than just a fucking giant idiot with big hands, like, drinking blood.
Well, the
or
other
whatever,
thing that I like about this creature is they mention that they don't know a lot about. They're like, when they talk about the spaceship that they see, they go, this thing could either be intelligent and knows how to use the spaceship, and it could be his spaceship, or it could have taken over another species on the spaceship. So they're like, this thing's either really intelligent or it's just like this base level, creature. So they're kind of like, they try to discuss it, but they don't really know. And then at the end, we do know that it was intelligent because it was trying to create some sort of craft.
Well, I think I mean, yes, I agree with what you're saying. The line that really summed it up for me was when like they're freaking out, and I think Childs is yelling at everybody like, "How can it do this? Like, how can it change shape or whatever?" And McCready's like, "I don't know, because it's different than us. See, because it's from outer space. What do you want from
Right?
me?" Like,
Yeah.
he doesn't know.
Yeah.
Nobody fucking knows. So like that panic about trying to understand it doesn't matter. Like just surviving
Right.
this situation, identifying it, and killing it. Or at least not letting it escape becomes the priority in the movie, and I think that's what makes it way better.
Yeah. So let's go into the actual creature design a little bit. So, we never
baby.
see a base creature. We don't know what this creature.
I don't know that there even is one.
They never actually really try to show that there is any sort of like base shape for this thing. It's always just this weird amorphous blob that takes on the aspects of other creatures, which I personally think is amazing.
yeah.
Way more interesting than a concrete example of what this thing looks like in its basic form. I don't know that it has one. Like it could be some kind of like, infection or some kind of, I don't know. They show it like, is it just like attacks creatures on a cellular level and copies them?
Well, what's really great about it is it's very obvious that it has been on other planets and has absorbed other creatures. So, like you guys mentioned, it has like these weird spider-like legs, but then it also at one point, when it's just a head, has like this weird little like tendril, and it like shoots a tendril out around a table leg and like uses it to drag itself until it can actually create like, so it has like this knowledge of other creatures that with different forms of being mobile.
I think it just like uses the biomass for whatever it needs at the time.
It's really cool.
Like it's real creepy.
Excellent stop motion puppetry, animatronics and stuff. There are also some really interesting filming techniques that they used with this too. Like there's the scene when it's attacking all the dogs in the kennel. There's one scene where there's there's this dog that's lying on the ground, and it actually goes and it wraps its tentacles around it. And if you go back and watch that scene, you can actually see that it was filmed in reverse, and they pull the tentacles off it. But the way
and like all those tendrils were like hoses with they were just hooked up to pressurized air, so they could whip around. Like they
So
had
that
air through those
scene,
tubes.
the creatures in the dog scene, and like that weird dog creature that they kind of dissect when they're like, you can see that it's half transformed. That was actually Stan Winston. They actually ran out of time, so they had like their own in-house guys making most of the creatures. But they ran out of time, so they did pay a bunch of extra money to get Stan Winston to do the creatures for that scene.
I also thought it was interesting how much like all of these, like every time that they're like in plain view and they can see one of these creatures, it really does make you want to douse it with fire.
Oh yeah, that would be your immediate
yeah.
Like,
reaction.
they're horrified.
Speaking of fire,
And yeah.
speaking of fire, why the hell do they have flamethrowers in a scientific place in Antarctica? Why do they have flamethrowers?
There's no reason for this. Michael, I thought the exact same thing. I was hung up on this as well. And so in this movie, they're at what they're calling United States National Science Institute Station Number 4, right? So this is a government-run thing. So I looked this up, and it turns out that flamethrowers, in fact, are not standard equipment at an Antarctic base. The United States Antarctic Program at the Amundsen Scott South Pole Station does, in fact, maintain a blog. And in that blog, Sven Lidström made an entry on March 16th of 2012 in which he stated, according to station tradition, we celebrated the first evening of winter by gathering in the gym after dinner to watch the sci-fi movie The Thing, both the old and new versions. This might have changed a couple people's expectation of our coming winter, but now we know how to deal with alien monsters. However, we have yet to locate flamethrowers as they are not in MapCon, the U.S. Antarctic Program's material and maintenance tracking software. So, flamethrowers would not be present at an Antarctic ice base. However, it does make this movie much cooler that they have. They also have dynamite.
I would like to remind my other hosts and the audience that this movie stars Kurt motherfucking Russell.
Well, I think Kurt probably brought his own flamethrower,
and
knowing
thus
that he was going to be at an ice base.
Yes. Thus, having escaped from New York already, he would know
Had
to
he escaped
be
from New
well
York already
prepared.
at this point?
Oh, actually, maybe he was just preparing to escape from New York.
I think
The
he
point
just takes it
stands.
with him everywhere he goes. You guys, I don't
Yeah,
think Kurt travels
I
without a
think-
flamethrower.
I think Kurt Russell just needs to be as absolutely goddamn prepared as possible, no matter what very hostile part of the earth he is going to, be it New York in 1997 or the Antarctic in 1982.
Wait, L.A. was 97. Wasn't
Yeah.
it? He escaped from
Yeah.
L.A. and New York. He's escaped from many places.
You know what's funny about Kurt
Well,
Russell's character?
but
So he's playing chess at the beginning of the movie, and he loses, and he pours a beer or whatever it could be
Cheating bitch.
whiskey, probably more,
His whiskey.
into this computer,
You
which
cheating
presumably,
bitch. He ruins the chess machine for everyone.
presumably in 1982, like computers weren't a regular staple that like they are now. Like that was probably like a $10,000 piece of equipment that he
dude.
ruined.
But they also used to cheat all the time. So, fuck them. And also, nobody else gets to play it after
No.
that. Like, it's really terrible.
So
If Kurt Russell doesn't get to play on the chess machine,
If he doesn't get to
nobody
all right,
win.
so we're kind of going off topic a little bit. So we talked about the creature. I think we all respect the creature design. I think it's amazing. We've talked a lot about how the people react, but I kind of want to talk about like specific things that they did. So I think it was Blair who ultimately ends up infected, but he has this. He's kind of the most level-headed, but crazy at the same time. Like he kind of like freaks
Is he?
the fuck.
When he starts breaking all the
He
computers
freaks out,
and
but he
shooting
starts
at
breaking.
everyone? I
But
don't
it
think
makes a lot of sense why he'd do it. He's like, this thing is crazy. It's gonna kill us all, and it's gonna wait until like the next crew comes, and like in a couple of weeks. It's supposed to be just a couple of weeks before the next crew comes. So it's like he destroys all the radios, he destroys the helicopter, he destroys like the snowmobile thing, like everything, so that way they cannot leave. So ultimately, one of two things could be happening.
Does he though? Like
Either
he takes
was
all those all those parts.
yeah. So one of two things could happen. At this point, he could have already been infected, and he was just doing this as a to kind of hide the fact that he was
ruse.
building something, or he really was concerned about humanity and he got infected later on. And then like the blood test was amazing, where like Kurt Russell figures out after seeing like this head can survive on its own that each piece is an individual, so it might be willing to give up blood to act as a human, but once that blood is out, it's going to act as an independent creature and not know what's going on. So he like burns the blood, and that's how he figures out who else is a creature, which was really
Yeah, it also
cool.
looks really cool when like the blood jumps out of the petri dish.
Yeah.
And it's, like really.
That's a
freaky.
really cool
That's
effect.
cool.
Yeah, man.
But I mean, we're also skipping over the fact that when they they try to lock Kurt Russell out. Like,
Oh,
they
that's
suspect him, and
right.
so they lock him out.
So
And he breaks back in, and they're like, "Oh, he's in there!" And like he's in there, and he's like got ice in his beard, and he's shivering, and he's holding the dynamite and the fucking flamethrower, and he's like,
no, he's
"Anybody
got
messes with
at
me,
that
and the
point
whole
he's got
camp
a,
goes."
it's a flare that he's using.
It's a flare, yeah, it's a flare and some dynamite. He's like, "Anybody messes with me, and the whole camp goes." And like they're pointing a flamethrower at him, and he's like, "Burn me!"
Yeah.
He's back off,
And that's
way
one of
off.
the things that I think is interesting. And at that point in the movie, it makes it where Kurt Russell could possibly be an alien because he is gone. It's like the only time we don't
he
see
could
him.
be.
But was
Yeah,
interesting.
but he might have changed then and there.
He-
Well, no, they test his blood after
that's
that.
right.
He tests his own
they
blood.
do. But at that point, that somebody is trying to set him up. Like they took his shirt that had his name
Yeah.
on it and tried to like burn it, so people would think that he was a creature. So that's pretty interesting. Like somebody was
I like that he's just ready to kill them
everybody,
all.
but it makes sense to do that at that
Anybody
point.
touches me,
Oh, and then the
we
other thing
go.
he does is, understandably, the rest of the crew are freaked out and like this, he could be a thing. He's trying to threaten. So two guys try to
Yeah.
tackle him. One fakes to have a heart attack and then is a thing. And then as
Yeah.
like that thing's dying, another guy comes up with a scalpel and tries to stab him. And he just turns and like blows his brains
smokes him.
out. And Keith David, who plays Childs, he's like, "Now you're a murderer." No, he isn't. He's not a murderer. That was
Nope,
self-defense.
That guy tried to kill
Yeah.
him.
That was goddamn
Self-defense.
self-defense.
Well, it is cool though when he's doing like the blood test and he goes to like the first guy that he does and it comes up negative. He's like, "I guess you're okay. All right, put that on and watch them." He gives him the flythrower.
And then that guy dies because Kurt Russell's flamethrower like fails, and then he panics, and then that thing like opens up with like a Venus flytrap like head and like picks him up by its own head. And
Oh,
like,
that guy gets it real
oh,
bad.
that was so cool. And then Kurt Russell kills them both with fire.
Well,
Yeah, that was actually the thing that I thought was super badass.
Dude, who cares? Just burn the whole couch. Fuck.
Yeah,
Who cares anymore?
Oh yeah, they're like, get
I
us
thought it was
off, get
super
us off.
badass because that thing like launches the dude into the corner and he's like sitting there like, holy shit, I'm covered in slime, and then Kurt Russell just flames the shit out of him even though he hasn't even transformed yet. It's just like, bye,
got to.
bye Felicia.
You got to.
Yeah, why wait for any of them to
So-
transform them? All
Yeah.
these people were fine with locking you out of the fucking place and
Right?
leaving you to die. I would have killed them all.
So just getting into people, I mean, much more paranoid, much more tactical about trying to figure out who and what is going on, not necessarily what the alien is, but how to survive. And then at the end, they kind of have this like resignation that, probably all of them are going to die, but they need to stop. So they decide that they're going to go get Blair, and then they find out he gets infected, and so he turns into like a giant monster, which Kurt Russell just like throws a like Molotov and like dynamite at, and it blows up. But they know that they were ready to just destroy the entire camp and hope that nobody.
I mean, that's the plan, is to prevent it from escaping.
Exactly. So I loved the fact that they were.
They know they're not getting out alive.
Yeah, and so at the very end, it's Kurt Russell as McCready and Keith David's Childs are there, and Childs is gone for like 5 minutes. You don't see him during any of this like climactic fight, and Kurt Russell gives him the drink, and the music starts playing as soon as Childs takes a sip, like this like dark ominous music, and then Kurt Russell just laughs, and fades to black. So like this.
Well, and they're both willing to sit there and freeze. Like they're not.
Well, they know
fighting
like there's
anymore.
like there's no survive. Like they say it like there's no surviving this at this point. Like we're not gonna make it. And at this point, they're both resigned to like, there's theories that Kurt Russell's character knows that he's a human and that Childs isn't. Like there's this like fan theory out there that because he was using Molotovs, that he actually hands Childs like a bottle of like gasoline,
Like a bottle
and he
of gas,
drinks it. And Kurt Russell has said that theory's bullshit. But that makes sense. But like, it makes sense with that music.
I'm taking Kurt's word.
Yeah,
for
I'm
it.
gonna take Kurt's words for it. But then he just laughs because he's like, this guy could be an alien, but there's literally nothing he can do. Like he says it, he's like, at this point, like neither of us are in a condition. He's like, if you're a human and I'm an alien, or if I'm a human and you're an alien, like neither of us are in condition to fight another alien. Like they're just resigned to die, and they accept that they may have failed in their mission to prevent this alien apocalypse. So
Yeah, I mean, it's an awesome movie.
I love the paranoia, and then just the resignation, like just the willingness to die, and then just the acceptance of their fate at the end. I think it's a much more
and
human
I think
movie.
it's like smart the whole time. Like they play it well the whole time. Like when they first realize that it can take over people and stuff, and like Kurt Russell's out there or McCready's out there, and he's like, I know I'm human, and if you're all these things, then you just attack me right now. So some of you are still human. And like that's when they're clinging to
the hope.
Maybe they can beat it, like the hope that they can do
and
this. But it slowly deteriorates. Like it becomes like just this whole like the sense of doom mounts, like to where like when McCready's in his cabin, he's doing the tape recording, right? And he's like, nobody trusts anybody now. We're all very tired. There's nothing else I can do. Just wait.
There was a really great line after McCready took over, like after he like threatened everybody with the dynamite and stuff. And I wrote down, and he goes, Childs goes, you're going to have to sleep sometime, McCready. And he's like, I'm a real light sleeper.
Yeah.
I really liked that line. That was great.
Or when he just tells Childs, like, then I'll have to kill you, Childs.
Yeah.
I mean it. I guess you do.
Yeah. Oh, man, it was great.
Yeah, like they just he loses hope throughout like it's a good arc, like it's a good, like, oh, maybe we can get over this. And then it's like, nope, we can't. We're going to die.
Just to compare it to the novella really quick, the novella and this movie are very, very similar. Like this, with the exception of having like a direct, like, this is what the creature looks like in its natural form. The whole like the blood test thing with the serum was out of the movie and then somebody unlocking it was there. The burning of the blood was in the book. The building some sort of craft to escape at the end, the alien was doing that was smart. In the book, there was a lot more people. There was like 30 people. When they did the blood test, like 14 of them were aliens, and they just like, they had this like cattle prod thing set up, and they just like, as soon as they tested the blood, they just like killed them instantly with electricity. So like at the end of it, like they survived. Like the end of the book is much happier. Like they know that there's only like 2 of them left, but they're definitely human. It was pretty cool, but it's, the paranoia thing, like you mentioned with I know you guys, I'm human, and you guys haven't attacked me, so at least some of you guys are human. They do the same thing. Like they start doing the math. They're like, well, I know I'm human. I know that person's human. And one of these 2 people is definitely an alien, so we're going to have to figure that out. But the whole time they're like, there's hope, there's hope. And it actually takes place over the course of 7 days in the novella. And
oh, man.
So they start getting more paranoid as it goes. And then they end up having to fight a guy. Like he actually invented like a anti-gravity like jetpack, and like the humans actually play with it at the end. It's pretty funny, but very, very similar in the tone, like the paranoia, and like they try to rationalize. There's a lot more of the rationalization, like, well, I did this, so I can't be a thing. And he goes, yeah, but that's exactly what a thing would do to make it think that it's human and everything like that. And then
it's over 7 days.
Yeah,
shit.
So they have like a week's worth of time.
First goddamn week of winter.
But amazing movie overall. Like this movie was panned when it first came out, like, oh, it's just gory for the sake of being gory, but has stood the test of time and is now considered like a staple of cinema. So I definitely think, in my opinion, this movie definitely should have been made. It definitely adds value. I'm glad that this happened.
Love it. Great movie.
Yeah. So as a quick note, do either of you guys feel like this is probably the movie that do either of you guys think that this movie is the perfect encapsulation of what an H.P. Lovecraft movie should be?
Yeah, absolutely.
Sort of.
Yeah.
It has this crazy fear of the unknown. It has that feeling of intense isolation and paranoia. It's got the monstrous entities from way beyond anything you're familiar with. I mean, it really strikes me, at least, as being what essentially would be a Cthulhu movie.
It has an incomprehensible monster, right? Like,
it has elements of like At the Mountains of Madness and that type of thing.
Tempered by the level-headed bravado of Kurt Russell.
Yes, the level-headed bravado of Kurt Russell, fresh from Escape from New York.
All right. So, looking at the news, there's not a lot of stories out, but there were a couple that I notated over the last couple weeks. So, the first one that I kind of wanted to talk about is they are remaking Aladdin as live action like they did with Beauty and the Beast and Cinderella a few years ago. Guy Ritchie is going to be directing, which I think is awesome.
Well,
but they announced that they're actively courting Will Smith to be the genie.
That's very strange.
It's interesting, because you need
you're going from Robin Williams
to Will Smith. In some regards, it makes sense. Like, he's funny and he's quick witted, and
is he?
He's funny. Like, he's done like look at Men in
Robin
Black.
Williams funny?
Not Robin Williams funny, but if you look at it kind of makes sense if it's going to be live action. If like I don't know what exactly he's going to look like, but if it's like Sinbad type,
dude. I mean, I saw Tupac at that one thing. Like, can't we get Robin back?
Well, the thing is with live action, I don't know if we want the like with him being.
He was at like the Super Bowl. Tupac was there, dude.
That was Coachella. Fool.
Where was it? Oh, it was Coachella. Whatever, dude. Tupac was there. He's probably also at the Super Bowl.
So with this, it kind of makes sense though. If you're doing live action, it would make sense that he would not necessarily be like Middle Eastern descent, like he could be from Africa or something. I think it should be
Shaquille O'Neal, as his performance in Kazam was spot on.
So the one thing that could be great about this, if Will Smith is cast as the genie, we might get another Will Smith movie rap like Wild Wild West or Men in Black.
Oh god.
Well, I guess you can hope for that.
Man, I just don't think that under any circumstances, somebody like Will Smith could match the charisma of somebody like
Robin Williams.
Robin Williams. It just doesn't seem plausible.
Happen,
like
no
maybe if you got someone who's also like has a really larger than life personality, like Jim Carrey, or like way on the other side of things, somebody who's good at really subtle weirdness might be good. But I don't know.
I don't think you can do like Will a Jim Smith? Carrey. Because it'll just feel like too much like you're trying to match Robin Williams. I think you need to get somebody who's it's a remake of the Disney cartoon. Like, you do need someone who's funny, but I do think you need to bring somebody different. I think Will Smith could be good, but I think getting another just like straight stand-up comedian would just be them trying to do it like a Robin Williams impression. I don't think we need an impression. We need like a fresh take on it.
Let's just get Louis C.K. That'd be great. Wouldn't that be great?
The genie.
Or Louis Black.
Louis C.K. would just be like, "Give me your 3. I don't give a fuck." God.
Oh my god.
The other.
So what else is in the news?
Most depressing genie.
Oh man, that would.
That's what you wish for. You know, there are children that are born and they starve and they die. You know that, right?
I can't make. You want to be a prince so she can fall in love with you? That's God. Or when
great call. I like it. The more I talk about it, the more I like it.
Right?
Okay, so
this is a good seed. Now my mind's just running with Louis C.K. granting wishes and really just judging the shit out of those wishes and making the wisher regret that he wished them.
Man. All right, Mike. What else is in the news?
The next one is they have announced the director for the Labyrinth remake. It's going to be Fede Alvarez, the guy who just did the remake of Evil Dead a couple years ago.
Okay.
I don't know how I feel about this. I'm not super attached to Labyrinth. I didn't watch it as a kid.
How are you going to replace Bowie, dude?
That's the thing.
And Jennifer Connelly. Jesus Christ.
I don't have the emotional attachment to this movie. I didn't actually see it until like 5 or 6 years ago.
This is one of those 80s movies. Like, so as a child in the 80s, I was really terrified by most of the movies that people enjoyed, and this is one of the ones that scared the shit out of me.
Oh yeah, it's a terrifying fucking movie. But I mean, if you're gonna,
so many of them,
it's definitely
weird
remake creepy. But I think if they're gonna remake it,
is this the one where they're like stealing memories or something? Or,
no, they steal the kid. So they
steal
steal Jennifer Connelly's little brother.
Oh yeah, good. That's better.
Who's a baby, and Bowie plays like the Goblin King, and he's definitely not a goblin. And she goes on
he rules
king of goblins,
yeah, Jennifer Connelly goes on this like
and,
quest, and she's got to go through like a maze, and she's got to go through like this part where she has to like answer these riddles from these like 2 doors, and only one door is going to open. So, it's very much like those 80s movies like Willow and what is it, Legend with
Never-Ending Story.
Tom Cruise, like that kind of like
Legend,
vibe.
Yeah.
I
love Legend
but
so
it's got
much.
like the special effects from Jim Henson, like they're all Jim Henson puppets and stuff like that, I believe.
Yeah.
But if they're gonna remake this movie,
The Dark Crystal was another one.
yeah, with Fede Alvarez, who did that super gruesome, like fucking, oh man, it made me cringe watching the Evil Dead because I love the Evil Dead movies. The remake was gruesome. I'm thinking that this is probably gonna go not be for like kids, but be like a super dark version of this movie, and that I would be on board with.
That could be cool
if they're just trying to remake it. And you know, it makes sense that they waited until after David Bowie passed away. Like they're not gonna, you can't do a David Bowie role with David Bowie still alive. So now that he's passed away,
you could only really do it if Jermaine Clement did it, or Brett McKenzie. Really, either one.
Bowie in space.
Both do Bowie pretty well.
That's Flight of the Conchords, if you guys don't know. But I think if they go super dark and they just completely change the tone, I'm on board with it. If they just try to make it like semi-lighthearted like it was, I don't necessarily think we need it.
I'd check it out.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm brave enough now at 35 to watch another Labyrinth.
See, the thing that really bothers me about this is that they've got a director on board who is known for his horror movies. And I mean, Labyrinth it's creepy and weird, but it's not a horror movie. I mean, if you wanted to get somebody who's good at like the weird whimsical shit, at least get somebody.
I mean, it's kind of
like
a horror
Guillermo
movie.
del Toro.
Somebody breaks into a house and steals a child.
Well, yeah,
No,
but
I
I mean,
agree with your Guillermo del Toro call. That's a good.
It has like
There's
musical
still something
numbers.
lovable.
He already did a movie
Right,
called
exactly.
Labyrinth, though. That's too on the nose.
But that Labyrinth
I mean,
belonged to Pan.
Yeah, and in the original title was actually the Labyrinth of the Fawn or something along those lines. It was very different, and the translation didn't quite.
Now that you guys are talking about Guillermo del Toro, this is like unrelated, but I've never been a Pokemon fan. I didn't like Pokemon as a kid. I was very skeptical. I was like, they're just going to create more Pokemon.
I know where this is going.
They're either going to just make more Pokemon.
Neither.
And I was like that as a kid. I'm like, 150, there's going to be like 600 of them in a few years. And I was right.
To me, Pokemons were no different than fucking Pogs.
Right. They're pretty much, but me being somebody who even as a child, when Pokemon was at its peak, not liking it, if Guillermo del Toro made a live action Pokemon movie, I would watch the shit out of that movie. If he did.
Yeah, you get probably some pretty cool Pokemons.
Yeah.
What would a Guillermo del Toro's Pikachu look like?
Fucking awesome is what it would look like. It would look baller as fuck.
Yeah,
man.
I think it'd be a pretty scary Pikachu.
It would be. But these creatures should be scary.
Shouldn't they? Yeah, absolutely.
So
there's what are they supposed to be? Pocket monsters,
Yep.
right? Isn't that the deal with these little shits?
So
Fucking catch them all.
the last
Fucking
bit of
kill 'em.
news.
I don't know. Fight them. Make them fight when they don't
Hey.
want to. What is the point of that?
Michael Vick, all he was doing was adult Pokemon.
Oh my god. Wow. We just leapt over the line with both feet, you
You
guys.
saw the line. You saw it. You danced on it, and then you crossed it.
That's not my joke. I don't remember where I saw that, but I saw that years ago. And the last news story,
You
really
said it
quick.
out loud.
All right, so the last news story, and I just saw this on Instagram today as an advertisement for the ABC channel, but they remade Dirty Dancing as a musical. How do you guys feel about that?
Fine.
Fine?
Eh.
I don't
It comes out next month, future episode maybe?
I
Well, if we have any listeners that give a damn, they can tell us if they want us to talk about it.
All right.
I give exactly zero fucks
Yeah,
about this.
I don't really care. It'll be weird not seeing Patrick Swayze.
I will do it if the people want it. I will do it, but without Swayze,
I think they'd
we
have a
already
hard
talked about Point
time.
Break. We already know Swayze's cool.
Yeah, I think they'd have a hard time getting Swayze back though.
Yeah, that would be difficult. I mean, I'm not saying it couldn't be done.
Oh, God
I
damn.
mean, they did it with Tupac, right?
That's what I'm saying. Thank you. Full circle.
Oh, man.
Nobody's dead forever. It's 2017.
All right. I don't have anything else. You guys have anything else?
Not really. No, I don't.
We're all horrible human beings, and we're
right.
going to burn in hell forever.
Xavier, I'm glad you're back.
You don't have anything else because
Yeah,
you're all
me too.
terrible people.
Thanks, Katrina.
Thanks, Katrina. That's Katrina. Perfect segue.
Our
If you
lovely
guys-
producer.
Producer and co-host of our second podcast, Ruin My Childhood. So check out Ruin My Childhood. It is on iTunes and Stitcher as well. Facebook, we're at facebook.com/MDXpods. We're on Twitter and Instagram at MDXpods. Got our website, MDXpods.com. What we always talk about, Patreon.
Give us your money.
Give us your money. No, help us out. So we did just recently invest in pop filters, which is actually helping my audio a lot. But we do want to get some different equipment so we can actually mix. Sometimes Xavier and I like to record at the same place, but our microphones pick each other up, so we need to get some better mics so we can record, multiple people in the same room. We are actively working on getting some guest hosts from other podcasts, trying to get some, maybe some celebrities down the road. We're coming up on episode 10 pretty quick, so, ultimately we need to get some microphones so we can get people into our studio. It's not really a studio, it's my apartment, and that'll help us out a lot. So if you guys like,
it'll be a studio in the future. Don't worry about it.
There will be a studio in the future. But if you guys like what you've heard so far, please help us out. Throw out a couple bucks if you can afford it. If you can't, please like and share our content. Go on the website, give it a thumbs up, comment on it, share the episodes on Facebook, tweet the links. Yeah, help us out, guys, in whatever way you can. Thanks for listening, guys.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye.
Good night.